Mina always loved the forest. She lived in a small village near the edge of the trees, and every day after finishing her chores she would run into the woods. The forest was quiet except for the songs of birds and the rustle of leaves in the wind. She liked walking on the narrow paths that twisted between the tall trees. Sometimes she imagined herself as an explorer, discovering places no one had ever seen before. Her friends in the village thought she spent too much time in the woods, but Mina did not mind. The forest made her feel free. One late afternoon, the sky was painted with soft orange and pink colors. Mina was following a trail she had never noticed before. It was smaller and less clear than the main paths, and the grass grew wild along it. She felt a shiver of excitement. Her heart beat a little faster as she wondered where it might lead. She stepped carefully, trying not to make too much noise. The forest seemed different here. The air smelled stronger, a mix of earth and pine, and she felt as if the trees were watching her. After walking for a while, Mina noticed something unusual. In the distance, smoke was rising above the trees. She stopped and stared. The smoke was thin, gray, and smelled faintly of something burned. Her curiosity grew stronger. She had never seen smoke in this part of the forest before. With careful steps, she moved closer. The trees opened up a little, and then she saw it. A small cabin burned almost completely. The roof had collapsed in some places, and the walls were blackened and cracked. Smoke still drifted from the charred wood. Mina's first feeling was fear. She took a step back. The cabin looked empty and abandoned, and yet something inside her told her to move closer. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that she loved adventure. Carefully, she walked toward the cabin. The smell of burnt wood filled the air. Some pieces of furniture lay scattered outside, black and broken. She could see the shadow of the forest behind the cabin, tall and dark. She felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. The door of the cabin was half open and hanging loosely on its hinges. Mina approached slowly and gently pushed it. The door creaked loudly. Inside, the cabin was dark, filled with dust and ashes. Broken chairs and a table lay on the floor. The smell of smoke was stronger inside. Mina's eyes searched the room, and her heart beat faster when she noticed a small object on the table. It was a diary, its leather cover burned at the edges but still intact. The diary looked old and fragile. She picked it up carefully, her fingers trembling slightly. Mina sat on a broken chair and opened the diary. The first page was blackened at the corners, but the handwriting was still clear. It was small and careful, and the ink had faded over time. The name Lila was written at the top. Mina's eyes widened. She had never heard of Lila before, but something about the diary made her want to read more. She turned the pages slowly, careful not to tear them. The diary spoke of life in the cabin and strange experiences in the forest. Lila had written about hearing noises at night and seeing shadows moving near the trees. Mina felt a chill as she read the diary. The words were simple, but they painted pictures in her mind. She could almost hear the whispers in the night and feel the cold wind coming through the broken windows. The diary also mentioned a secret, a hidden place in the cabin where Lila kept important things. Mina's curiosity became stronger. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears. She wanted to find the secret and learn more about the burned cabin and the person who had lived here. She closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows through the windows. Mina knew she had found something important. She did not yet understand the full story, but she felt that discovering it would change her life. Carefully, she placed the diary in her bag and looked around the cabin once more. The forest outside seemed quiet, but she knew there were many secrets hidden among the trees. Mina stood up, her heart full of excitement. She was ready to uncover the mystery of the burned cabin. The next morning, Mina returned to the burned cabin. She could not stop thinking about the diary. Her mind was full of questions. Who was Lila? Why had the cabin been burned? What secrets did it hold? The forest was quiet, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the chirping of birds. The sunlight filtered through the trees, making golden patterns on the ground. Mina felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She took a deep breath and stepped toward the cabin. The door creaked as she pushed it open. Dust floated in the air, and the smell of burnt wood was stronger than the day before. Mina carefully placed her bag on the floor and opened the diary again. She read the last line she had left off at. Lila had written about strange sounds at night and shadows moving near her cabin. Mina's hands trembled slightly. She had always believed the forest was peaceful, but the diary suggested something unusual had happened here. She decided to explore more carefully this time, looking for the hidden place Lila had mentioned. Mina's eyes scanned the cabin. Most of the furniture was broken and burned, but something caught her attention near the fireplace. A small floorboard looked different from the others. It was loose and the edges were slightly raised. Her heart began to race. Could this be the secret Lila had written about? Mina knelt down and gently lifted the board. Beneath it was a small wooden ladder that led down into darkness. She hesitated. The ladder looked old and creaky. One wrong step could make it collapse. Mina took a deep breath. She told herself she had to be brave. Slowly, she placed one foot on the first rung and began to descend. The air below was cooler and damp. Dust covered the floor and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. Mina could barely see in the dim light, but she kept moving forward carefully. The small room was narrow and the walls were made of rough wood. On a low shelf, she noticed several objects wrapped in cloth. She approached them slowly and untied the first bundle. Inside were old papers and letters, some yellowed with age. Mina picked them up gently. The handwriting was delicate, and she could see that Lila had written carefully to record every detail of her life. Among the papers, Mina found a small map. The map was hand-drawn and showed paths through the forest. Certain places were marked with symbols she did not understand at first. One place was circled in red near a river. Mina's curiosity grew stronger. She realized this map might lead her to more secrets. She continued exploring the room. There were also objects that looked personal. A necklace, a small wooden box, and a few old coins. Each item told a story about Lila's life and the time she had spent hiding in the cabin. While examining the papers, Mina noticed a letter that seemed urgent. The handwriting was hurried and the words were clear. Lila had written that someone in the village knew about the cabin. This person had threatened her and had tried to force her to leave the forest. Mina felt a shiver run down her spine. Someone had wanted to hide the truth, and Lila had been afraid for her life. The diary and the hidden room made more sense now. Lila had tried to protect her secrets and hide them from those who wanted to harm her. Mina carefully organized the papers and objects in her bag. She knew she could not leave the forest without learning more. The red-circled place on the map called to her. She wanted to follow it and discover what Lila had hidden there. Climbing back up the ladder, Mina felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She returned to the main cabin, sunlight streaming through the broken windows. For a moment she paused and looked at the blackened walls. The cabin had once been a place of life. Now it was silent, but it still held Lila's story. Before leaving the cabin, Mina made a promise to herself. She would uncover the full truth no matter what it took. The forest held secrets that were waiting to be discovered, and she was ready for the adventure. With the diary, the letters, and the map carefully packed in her bag, she stepped outside. The wind whispered through the trees and the forest seemed to watch her. Mina smiled slightly. She knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that could change everything. Mina left the burned cabin and walked slowly through the forest, holding the diary and the map tightly in her hands. The sunlight was soft now, filtering through the leaves and casting dancing shadows on the ground. Her mind was full of thoughts. Who had threatened Lila? What was hidden near the river marked on the map? Mina felt a mix of excitement and fear. Every step she took seemed to echo in the quiet forest. Birds sang in the distance, but even their songs felt strange to her ears. She decided to follow the path on the map. The trail was not easy to find. Some parts were overgrown with tall grass and thick bushes. Mina pushed branches aside and stepped carefully over fallen logs. The forest seemed alive in a way she had never noticed before. She could hear the soft crunch of leaves under her feet, the whisper of wind through the branches, and the faint sound of water flowing somewhere ahead. Every sound made her alert. She remembered the diary's words about shadows moving at night and strange noises. She hoped the forest would not be dangerous during the day. After walking for a long time, Mina arrived at a small clearing. The river from the map flowed quietly, reflecting the sunlight like silver. She knelt by the water and looked at the map again. The red circle was near a bend in the river where rocks formed a small natural cave. Her heart beat faster. Could this be the place where Lila had hidden her secrets? Mina carefully approached the rocks. The entrance to the cave was narrow and dark. She felt a shiver run down her spine, but she also felt a strong curiosity. She had to see what was inside. Mina took a deep breath and stepped into the cave. The air was cooler and the smell of damp earth filled her nose. Her eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light. She noticed small piles of leaves and stones arranged carefully on the ground. It looked as if someone had been here before. Mina moved cautiously forward. On one side of the cave, she found a wooden chest covered in dust and cobwebs. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the lid. Inside were more papers, letters, and objects that had been carefully stored. Mina's heart raced with excitement. Lila had kept her secret safe here. She began reading the letters. Some described Lila's life in the village and how she had discovered something that others wanted to hide. Mina realized that Lila had been brave. Even though she had been afraid, she had tried to protect the truth. Other letters spoke about people who had followed her and tried to scare her away. Mina felt a chill. Someone had wanted to stop Lila from sharing her discoveries, but she had hidden them in the forest. The diary, the hidden room, and now this cave all connected to one story. Lila had been careful to leave clues for someone brave enough to find them. Among the objects in the chest, Mina also found a small notebook with sketches. Some were of the forest, showing paths, trees, and hidden corners. Others were of objects in the village, places that seemed ordinary but held meaning for Lila. Mina studied the notebook carefully. She realized that Lila had been observing the village and the forest for a long time. She had noticed small things that others did not see. Mina felt respect for Lila's courage and intelligence. She promised herself that she would honor Lila's work and uncover the full truth. Time passed quickly, but Mina did not notice. She read every letter, studied every sketch, and examined every object. The cave was quiet and safe, and the soft sound of the river outside made her feel calm. She imagined Lila sitting in the cabin, writing these letters and hiding them in the cave. It was as if Mina could feel her presence. The thought gave her strength. She knew she had to continue exploring, follow the map, and learn everything Lila had hidden. Finally, Mina packed the letters, notebook, and objects carefully into her bag. She looked around the cave one last time, feeling a mixture of sadness and courage. She had uncovered an important part of Lila's story, but she knew the journey was far from over. The forest still held secrets, and Mina was determined to find them. She stepped out of the cave, feeling the sunlight on her face. The river flowed quietly, and the trees swayed gently in the wind. Mina smiled. She was ready for the next part of the adventure, and she felt a deep connection to Lila and her story. Mina left the cave with the letters, notebook, and objects carefully packed in her bag. The sunlight touched the trees, making the forest look golden and alive. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she continued following the map. Each step took her deeper into the forest, where the paths were less clear and the sounds of birds and animals became more distant. Mina's heart raced with curiosity. She had already uncovered so much about Lila, but she felt that the most important secrets were still ahead. The map led her through a dense part of the forest. Trees grew close together and thick roots twisted across the ground. Mina had to step carefully to avoid tripping. The air smelled of wet earth and moss. She noticed small marks on some trees, almost like tiny scratches, that seemed to match the symbols on Lila's map. Mina's eyes widened. It was as if Lila had left a trail for someone brave enough to follow. She smiled slightly and whispered to herself, "I will find it. I will understand everything." Her voice sounded small, but it gave her courage. After walking for a while, Mina came to a small hill. From the top, she could see the river she had visited yesterday. The red circle on the map was now closer. She descended carefully, feeling the soft ground under her feet. When she reached the riverbank, she noticed a large rock with moss covering it. Something about it seemed unusual. Mina knelt down and touched the rock. It was hollow underneath, forming a small space. Her heart beat faster. Could this be another hiding place that Lila had used? She peered inside and saw a small wooden box, almost hidden by the moss. Carefully, she pulled it out and wiped off the dirt. The box was old and worn, but the lock was still intact. Mina looked around for a moment, making sure no one else was nearby. She opened it slowly. Inside were more letters, small objects, and a folded piece of paper. The paper looked important. Mina unfolded it carefully. It was another map, showing not only the forest but also parts of the village. Certain houses and places were marked with symbols, and one location was circled in red, similar to the map in the cave. Mina realized that Lila had been keeping track of something in the village as well. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together. Mina read the letters in the box. They described how Lila had tried to uncover a secret that others wanted to hide. The letters spoke of people watching her, trying to stop her from discovering the truth. Lila had been careful, hiding her notes and maps in the forest where no one would think to look. Mina felt a mixture of admiration and sadness. Lila had been brave, but she had also been afraid. Mina understood now why the cabin had been burned. Someone had wanted to erase all traces of Lila's work. As Mina studied the new map, she noticed a pattern. The marked places formed a path that connected the forest to the village. It was clear that Lila had been tracking something important. Mina felt her determination grow stronger. She knew she had to continue following the path and uncover the secret that had been hidden for so long. She carefully packed the letters and map back into her bag and looked around. The river flowed quietly, and the sun reflected off the water. The forest seemed peaceful, but Mina knew that danger could be near. Before leaving the riverbank, Mina took a moment to rest. She sat on a smooth rock and thought about Lila's life and courage. The forest had been both a refuge and a challenge for her. Mina felt a deep connection to Lila. She promised herself that she would protect the discoveries she had found and finish what Lila had started. Rising to her feet, she looked ahead at the path through the trees. The journey was far from over. Mina adjusted her bag and took her first step forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The forest around her was quiet, but it felt alive in a new way. Every sound, every shadow, every movement of the leaves seemed to guide her forward. Mina's mind was full of questions, but she was no longer afraid. She had the diary, the maps, and Lila's letters. She had the courage to continue. The adventure had only just begun, and Mina was determined to uncover the full truth hidden in the forest and the village. Mina walked deeper into the forest, following the new map she had found in the hidden box by the river. The path was not clear, and she had to push through thick bushes and step over twisted roots. The sunlight peeked through the tall trees, casting moving shadows on the ground. Every sound made her alert: the rustling of leaves, the soft hum of insects, and the distant call of a bird. Mina held the diary and letters carefully in her bag, knowing that each item held clues to Lila's secret. The map led her to a small hill covered with moss and wildflowers. Mina climbed carefully, her hands brushing against the rough bark of trees for support. From the top, she could see a part of the village in the distance, hidden behind thick layers of forest. Her heart beat faster. The red circle on the map was near the edge of the village, just beyond the forest. Mina realized that Lila's secret was not only about the cabin or the forest, it involved people in the village as well. She felt a mixture of fear and determination. She had to uncover the truth. As she walked down the hill, Mina noticed a narrow trail that twisted through tall grass. It was easy to miss, but the map had shown it clearly. She followed it carefully, listening to every sound. Soon she reached a small clearing. At the center stood a large stone half covered in moss. Mina knelt down and looked closely. At the base of the stone, she saw a small, almost invisible mark that matched a symbol in Lila's notebook. Mina's eyes widened. She had found another clue. She moved aside some leaves and discovered a small wooden box hidden in the ground. Mina opened the box carefully. Inside were letters and papers, all neatly stacked. The top letter was addressed to someone named the Brave Finder. Mina's hands trembled slightly as she read the words. Lila had written that the secrets she uncovered involved people in the village who were hiding the truth about events in the forest. She warned that those who tried to stop her were dangerous, but she had left enough evidence for someone courageous to understand everything. Mina realized that she had been chosen to continue Lila's work. The letters described events from the past. Lila had noticed unusual activities near the forest and village boundaries. She had observed people hiding objects and writing messages in secret. The letters also mentioned a few villagers who had been kind and supportive, but most had been suspicious or hostile. Mina felt a shiver. The diary, the hidden cabin, the cave, and now this box all painted a picture of a long-hidden secret. Lila had been brave and careful, documenting everything so that the truth would not be lost. Among the papers, Mina found another map. This one was smaller and more detailed. It showed paths that led directly into the village and marked specific houses and areas of interest. Mina studied the map carefully. She realized that the secret Lila had discovered might still affect the village today. She could not let the letters and maps fall into the wrong hands. Mina carefully packed everything into her bag and sat down for a moment. She could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but she also felt courage growing inside her. Mina decided to rest for a few minutes, drinking water from her flask and looking at the forest around her. The tall trees swayed gently, and the sunlight created patterns on the ground. She thought about Lila and how brave she had been. Mina promised herself that she would honor Lila's courage and complete the work she had started. She knew the next steps would be difficult. She would have to move carefully, follow the maps, and face the possibility of danger, but she felt ready. Rising to her feet, Mina looked ahead at the forest and the village beyond. She could sense that she was close to discovering something important. Her heart was steady and her mind was focused. The forest seemed alive with secrets waiting to be revealed. Mina adjusted her bag and took a deep breath. With determination in her eyes, she began moving toward the village, following the path Lila had left for her. She knew that the adventure was reaching a critical point, and the next discoveries would reveal the dark truth that Lila had worked so hard to uncover. Mina stepped carefully along the narrow path that led from the forest toward the village. The trees began to thin, and she could see rooftops peeking through the leaves. Her heart beat faster. She had never been this close to discovering the secret that Lila had hidden. The maps and letters weighed heavily in her bag, but they gave her direction and purpose. Every step she took brought her closer to understanding the truth that had been hidden for so long. The path was not easy. Roots and stones jutted out from the ground, and thick bushes scratched her arms as she moved through them. Mina did not mind. She was focused, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs that matched Lila's maps. Small symbols scratched into tree trunks or rocks guided her, and she felt a strange connection to Lila, as if the woman had left these signs for her personally. Mina smiled softly. It was exciting to follow a trail that had been hidden for so many years. As she approached the edge of the village, Mina slowed down. She could hear the faint sounds of daily life, people talking, chickens clucking, and the distant sound of children playing. She crouched behind a bush, studying the smaller map from Lila's box. It marked a few houses near the forest edge. Mina noticed that one house in particular was circled in red. Her pulse quickened. Could this be the house connected to Lila's secret? She decided to observe first before making any move. Mina watched from a distance as villagers went about their day. Most seemed busy and unaware of her presence. She noticed that one house had small marks near the door, similar to the symbols on Lila's map. Mina crouched lower, careful not to be seen. She realized this house might hold answers about what had happened in the forest and why Lila had been in danger. She made a plan in her mind. She would wait until evening when the village was quieter, then approach the house to search for clues. While waiting, Mina explored the edge of the village cautiously. She looked for other symbols or signs that might match Lila's notes. She discovered small objects hidden in bushes and under stones, likely left by Lila to guide someone brave enough to find the truth. Each discovery made Mina feel closer to Lila and her story. The letters, the maps, and now these hidden objects were like pieces of a puzzle slowly coming together. Mina felt a deep sense of purpose. She was not just exploring, she was continuing Lila's work. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Mina moved closer to the marked house. The shadows grew longer and the village became quieter. She approached slowly, keeping her eyes on the house and her hands ready to react if anyone noticed her. The small symbols near the door matched exactly what Lila had drawn in her notebook. Mina felt a surge of excitement. She had found the place Lila had hidden. The truth was near and she was about to uncover it. Carefully, Mina examined the house. She noticed a small opening near the back, almost hidden by vines. It looked like it had been used recently, perhaps for leaving or taking items without being seen. Mina realized this must have been part of Lila's plan to hide evidence safely. She crouched low and slipped through the opening. Inside, the house was dusty but still had signs of life. Old papers, small objects, and notes were arranged neatly in a corner, waiting to be discovered. Mina's hands shook slightly as she picked them up. She knew she was holding important pieces of the secret that had remained hidden for so long. Mina carefully examined the papers. They revealed events in the village that had been kept from everyone, showing how some people had tried to hide the truth about the forest and its mysteries. Lila had documented everything, leaving clues for someone brave enough to continue her work. Mina realized that her journey was not just about discovering secrets. It was about protecting the truth and ensuring that Lila's bravery was remembered. As night began to fall, Mina packed the papers carefully into her bag. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The village held answers, but it also held risks. Still, Mina was determined to continue. She took a deep breath, listening to the quiet of the village and the soft whisper of the forest behind her. The adventure was reaching its most important stage, and Mina knew that the next discoveries would reveal even more of the dark truth Lila had hidden. Mina carefully left the small house at the edge of the village, her bag heavy with letters, maps, and papers. The night air was cool, and the forest behind her was dark and quiet. She could see the stars beginning to appear in the sky, their light faint but calming. Mina felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had already uncovered so many of Lila's secrets, but she knew the most important truths were still ahead. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, and soon she would understand everything Lila had tried to protect. Following the map, Mina moved cautiously through the narrow paths. The forest was alive with sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, and the soft trickle of water from a nearby stream. She held the maps and letters close to her chest, studying them as she walked. One map showed a specific location in the village that Lila had circled in red. Mina realized that this place must hold the key to the secret. Her heart beat faster. She knew that she was close to discovering the truth that had been hidden for so long. After walking for some time, Mina reached the edge of a small hill. From there, she could see the village lights flickering below. The house she had visited earlier was quiet, and shadows stretched across the narrow streets. She crouched behind a bush and examined the map again. According to Lila's notes, the final clue was hidden in a small shed near the village well. Mina's pulse quickened. The shed was small and unassuming, almost like it had been forgotten by the villagers. But Mina knew that Lila had chosen it for a reason. Carefully, Mina moved toward the shed. She stepped quietly, listening for any sound of movement. The village seemed peaceful, but she knew that uncovering Lila's secrets might reveal people's hidden actions. When she reached the shed, Mina noticed a loose board near the back. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted it. Beneath, she found a small compartment containing a final set of letters and a folded document. Mina carefully opened the document. It was a detailed account of the events that had led to the burning of Lila's cabin and the threats she had faced. Mina's eyes widened as she read. The papers revealed that some villagers had discovered that Lila had been observing them and recording their actions. They had feared that the truth would come out, so they had tried to scare her and destroy her cabin. Lila had been cautious, leaving clues and hiding her work in the forest, the cave, and now near the village well. Mina realized the danger Lila had faced. She felt a mixture of sorrow and admiration. Lila had been brave, smart, and careful, making sure that her discoveries would survive even if she could not stay safe. Mina read through the final letters carefully. They explained that certain villagers had acted unfairly, hiding information about the forest and its secrets. The letters also mentioned villagers who had been kind and supportive, giving Lila hope. Mina understood that the forest and the village were connected in ways most people did not know. Lila had been trying to protect both. Mina's heart swelled with determination. She knew that she had to make sure the truth was revealed, and that Lila's courage was remembered. Carefully packing all the letters, maps, and documents, Mina sat down beside the shed. The night was calm and the stars above shone brightly. She thought about Lila's life and bravery, about the hidden cabin, the cave, and the letters she had left behind. Mina felt a deep connection to her. The journey had been difficult, full of mystery and discovery, but she had learned so much. She promised herself that she would honor Lila's work and continue the mission she had started. Mina stood up and looked at the village below. She knew that the next day she would need to share what she had learned with the right people. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The forest around her was alive, and the adventure had taught her courage, patience, and determination. Mina felt proud of what she had accomplished and ready for the final step of her journey. The dark truth had been uncovered, but it was now up to her to decide how to share it safely and wisely. The morning sun rose gently over the village, casting warm light on the rooftops and streets. Mina stood at the edge of the forest, looking down at the village she had come to understand so well. Her bag was heavy with letters, maps, and papers, but her heart felt light. She had uncovered the full story that Lila had hidden for so long. Now it was time to decide how to share the truth and ensure that Lila's bravery was honored. Mina took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. Mina walked slowly into the village, keeping to the quieter streets. She carried the documents carefully, thinking about who could be trusted. She decided to start with the elders, wise people who had lived in the village for many years. They had seen much and would understand the importance of the letters and maps. Mina approached the meeting hall, her heart beating with both fear and hope. She had never spoken to the elders with such urgency before, but she knew they needed to hear the story. Inside the hall, the elders were surprised to see Mina carrying so many papers. She placed the diary, letters, and maps on the table and explained carefully what she had discovered. She told them about the burned cabin in the forest, the hidden cave, and the secret boxes near the river and the village well. She spoke about Lila, her courage, and the dangers she had faced while uncovering the truth. The elders listened closely, their expressions serious. They realized that the forest and the village held secrets that many had ignored for years. One of the elders, an older woman named Hannah, spoke softly. "Mina, you have done what no one else could. Lila was brave, and so are you. We must now act wisely to protect the truth and make sure it helps our village, not harm it." Mina nodded. She felt a wave of relief and pride. She had found the hidden story and was trusted to help the village understand it. The elders examined the maps and letters carefully, connecting the clues that Mina had found. They began to understand how Lila's discoveries explained events in the forest and the village that had been mysterious for years. After the meeting, Mina walked back through the village thinking about everything she had learned. She realized how brave Lila had been, hiding her work and leaving clues for someone she could not know would follow. Mina felt a deep respect for her. The village was beginning to see the truth, and Mina knew that the forest, the cabin, and the hidden places were now safe in the hands of people who would protect them. She felt proud to be part of this story and to continue Lila's work. In the days that followed, the villagers began to understand the connections between the forest and the village. They learned about the burned cabin, the hidden cave, and the secret boxes. People who had acted unfairly in the past were reminded to be honest and careful. Those who had helped Lila were recognized for their kindness. Mina became known for her bravery and wisdom, the young girl who had uncovered a hidden truth and guided the village toward understanding. Mina often returned to the forest, visiting the burned cabin and the hidden cave. She kept the letters, maps, and objects safe, using them to remember Lila and the lessons she had learned. The forest was no longer just a place of mystery. It was a place of courage, knowledge, and connection. Mina felt happy knowing that the secrets were now protected and that the village could live with a better understanding of the forest and its history. One evening, Mina stood by the river, looking at the flowing water and the trees around her. She thought about Lila and smiled softly. The journey had been long and sometimes frightening, but it had taught her patience, courage, and determination. The burned cabin and the hidden diary were no longer symbols of fear. They were symbols of bravery and truth. Mina took a deep breath, feeling calm and proud. She knew her life had changed forever. She had discovered a story, protected it, and ensured that Lila's courage would never be forgotten. With a final glance at the forest and the village, Mina turned and walked back toward her home. She carried the lessons she had learned and the story she had uncovered, ready to live her life with bravery, wisdom, and care. The forest, the cabin, and the diary had revealed a dark truth, but in the end it was a story of courage, hope, and understanding. Mina smiled as she continued walking, knowing that she had completed a journey that would be remembered for generations.